Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I will share with you 6 basics that you absolutely need to know when using watercolor pencils. This basics video will allow you to create the beautiful artwork you envision. You can skip the process of figuring it out and get straight to painting beautiful artwork. If you enjoy colored pencils, but you get tired of them because painting is too slow, you will love watercolor pencils. Just let me start by talking about how to use watercolor pencils. You apply the pigment from the pencil onto the paper and then you use water to dissolve it. It is the easiest way to dissolve pencils and the pigments basically melt in front of your eyes. Remember to always start with the lightest colors of your painting, as watercolors and watercolor pencils are translucent. When dissolving the pencils, start with the lightest area, as some of the pigments soak up in your brush and therefore transfer to the areas you move your brush towards. There are also other ways to use them. For example, you can use them dry, like for highlights, or you can take some pigment directly off of the pencil with a wet brush. Using line drawings is not cheating. For some reason, I was made to believe that using line drawings is bad and therefore my artwork is not real art. As an adult, I realized that this was only the opinion of one teacher. There are many ways to create line drawings and many tools to help you with it. While I could freehand the line drawings, I believe that there's no reason why anyone should have to spend 2 hours working on a line drawing. If you like spending time painting line drawings, it's amazing, but I prefer spending that time working on the painting instead. To name some of the available tools to help you with line drawings. You can trace them with a light box or tablet, or you can even use the sun when taping the painting to a window. You can use a tracing projector like an edgy mirror to cast a reflection from your tablet or phone onto the paper. Or you can be a little more old school and just use a ruler and possibly a grid. When you use watercolor pencils, you can even use those for the line drawing instead of pencils. This will make your line invisible in your final artwork. Usually my lines are very light and not visible in the final piece anyways, but if those lines bug you, you can use the watercolor pencils instead of pencils. You can also use the watercolor pencils for the line drawings when you want to use actual watercolor for your painting. Same as with watercolors, you should apply watercolor pencils in layers. Let each layer dry before adding the next one. This does require some planning, but I promise it will be worth it. I like to split the painting process into 3 layers. First, the underwash, where I add the basic colors. Second, add color, where I make the painting pop and add shadows. And third, details, where I add the little things that complete the painting. This is where I sometimes like to use the watercolor pencils as pencils. That means I will not activate them with water. Which paper should you use? That is really up to you. For beginners, I recommend a thick paper with a smooth surface that has enough grip for pigment to actually stick to it. Let's talk about the structure first and then about the thickness. Let me show you some illustrations I prepared in preparation for another video to help you decide on what paper structure to look for. A rough paper like this one would be a bad choice, as the paper can distract from the painting and make it harder to stay in control of distributing the pigment. If you want to use the paper structure to enhance your painting, it would be great. If the paper is very smooth, like this one, it can be hard to get enough pigment to stick to the paper. This could be frustrating if you plan on using many layers. It would be great, for example, for a very smooth petal, and it would enhance the softness. This paper is my personal middle ground. It can accept many layers and is pretty smooth, allowing the paper structure to just slightly be visible. Paper thickness is measured by its weight. This is the number you find on the front of your art paper. LBS means pounds and refers to the weight for 500 sheets of paper. GSM stands for the weight in grams per square meter. The higher the number, the thicker the paper. Thicker paper is better equipped to handle getting wet without bulging and often has an easier time absorbing the paint into the paper. This is why you should not use printer paper with watercolor pencils. It simply makes your life harder than it could be. Watercolor pencils are usually used in layers. Printer paper cannot absorb as much pigment and cannot handle the water without bulging or even breaking. Other types of paper, for example cotton paper, are expensive and are really not required for beginners. For watercolor pencils, you do not need the really thick watercolor paper with 140 pounds, as you will probably not soak your paper. But you should at least buy something like mixed media paper with 98 pounds. You do not need expensive brushes, but really cheap brushes can be frustrating to work with and lose bristles. Watercolor pencils are more demanding on the brushes than normal watercolors. They simply get used up more. This is why I'm not using my super expensive brushes. Depending on your brand of watercolor pencils, you might have to scrub a little to loosen the pigment and activate them. Also, when you need to be in control over how much water is released, that can be really hard with super cheap brushes. With watercolor pencils, I like to use round brushes and smaller brushes. You are not usually wetting large areas or soaking your page, so there's no need to use a super large brush. Pointy round brushes also give me more control over where the bristles touch the page. While water brushes are nice to work with, I sometimes feel it is harder to control how much water is released, which is important with watercolor pencils. If you like them in general, I suggest you give it a try and see if it is right for you. Your water jar does not really get dirty as it would with other supplies. This is one of my favorite aspects about using watercolor pencils. One small glass should usually be enough for a whole painting. As you are not using water to soak your paper, there is no need to have a super clean glass available at all times. When your water gets too dirty, you could change it, but I'm usually fine not changing it for a whole painting. Dirty water means that some of the pigment from the water gets transferred back onto the painting, muddying the colors. And that's it for this basics video. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you soon with the next video.